So again, welcome to the daily market analysis. It is streamed right now. If you are watching this after the stream, it's a video. Um, Anytime you have a question, please put it into the chat or in the comments below. Leave me in the comments, I'll answer them in the comments. If you're on the live stream, I'll answer them as it comes up. You can help me out massively by remembering to click on that like and subscribe button. That would help massively get more people watching the information that I'm sharing out with you guys. Doesn't cost you anything, takes you 2 seconds to click that like and subscribe. Right, and also, if you haven't already, do make sure you join us on the Discord channel. I'm going to be doing some private sessions for the members on Discord, so make sure you do join us on the Discord channel. The links is in the description below or within the video. Okay. Now, with all that said, quick disclaimer: any information contained on this webinar should not be construed as advice and is presented as educational material only. The contents of this webinar are not intended to be a recommendation to a financial product, so please remember that your objectives, financial situation, and needs has not been considered, and you should consider its appropriateness to your circumstances. Um, wow, I didn't know that. I So Irwin was just saying in a live chat that I think next month would be 1 year since I started watching the streams. It's been one. If it's been 1 year since I did, I think I've done it for more than 1 year. I think I've did it for 2 years now already. But if it's been a year, it's been 2 years, it's been whatever period of time. I've been having so much fun. I will keep the live streams going so long as you guys keep coming and keep getting benefits, keep making good tips and setups and trades and ask questions. And so long as I'm helping you guys, or so long as I'm able to help you guys, I will keep this going. So do let me know. Feedback, comments, anything you have, put into the chat and let me know. Okay. Good morning, Jumarinus. How are you doing? Hey Tam. I think Tam loves trading gold because it's Tam XAU. Good morning. How are you doing? Soon has a NFP revision article affect dollar. I don't see. I haven't seen that article. So you can point, if you can, you point that out to me. I'll be happy to look at that. Okay. Now, what has happened since the last time we spoke, which was just yesterday? Nothing much in terms of news. Nothing much in terms of news. I was going to point out something. Yeah, nothing much in terms of news. Then with that, we look at, then we had I was losing my train of thought. Yeah, then at 2 a.m. this morning, early morning, 2 a.m., we had the FOMC meeting minutes. We had FOMC meeting minutes. No big surprises there. They said the same thing as we expected based on what they did at the last meeting without raising rates. So the comments of how rates were held, inflation is slowing down, but still need a bit more confidence. Unemployment is rising, but still reasonable. The questions, then there was that line there that it said, Fed said vast majority saw September cut as a likely appropriate. Inflation easing, some support for quarter point cut. So it's back down to, is it going to be at 25 basis points or is it going to be 50 basis points? It does look a little bit more likely to be a 25 basis point rate cut in September. If you haven't already, check out my YouTube channel. I did a short, I did a 45-second clip, just trying a different way to deliver information. So check it out. Let me know what you think about it. All right, honest reviews. Let me know what you think about it. Just trying funny things out. Then, so that was the FOMC meeting minutes. What happened with that at 2 a.m. this morning was that the FOMC was right there. Meeting minutes, right? I put one before. It was at 101.12. On release of the meeting minutes, it wasn't a big surprise. It still pushed because it talked about a rate cut decision in September. It pushed the dollar index down from 101.12 down to as low as 100.92 before pushing back up again, right? Before pushing back up again. Through the morning, we've seen the dollar index climb slightly and then now sitting right at 101.16. So relatively unchanged after the news of the meeting minutes being released. Okay, so that was what happened. It wasn't big news. I mean, it's a rate news, it's FOMC meeting minutes, but like I've said so many times, it's talking about what has happened, so it's not a huge news. I stayed up. I was trading on. I was trading, but not trading that news in particular. Then, in 6 minutes, we have the French flash manufacturing. Something wrong with my speaking today. French flash manufacturing PMI. We have the services PMI to be released in 5 minutes and 20 seconds. At 3:30, we have the German manufacturing and services PMI. At 4:30, we have 4 o'clock, we have the Eurozone manufacturing and services PMI. At 4:30, the UK with the manufacturing and services PMI. And then through tonight at 9:45 p.m. GMT plus 8, we have the US with their manufacturing and services PMI. It tends, every month it tends to be like that, where the PMI, the manufacturing and services PMI all gets lumped and published on one day for the Eurozone, for the UK, and for the US. But like I said, I think earlier in the week, earlier in the week, I'm not, I think in 2012, 2008 to 14, about there, the PMI had a big impact on the currencies, a bit less so now. If you've gone through my talks, my educational videos about fundamental analysis, it comes down to not just what news to pay attention to, but the theme of which news to pay attention to, right? So different periods of the market cycle, you pay attention to different news events, or rather, different news events will have a bigger impact on the markets, right? So at this time, a bit less on the PMI. That's why I'm not, usually I'll be live trading the PMI together with you guys, but not this time, because if you look at it, manufacturing PMI for the French, 44 to 44.4. Still contractionary, might be increasing slightly, might be improving slightly, but not that much. Flash services PMI, 50.1 to 50.2, borderline expansionary, but not a big change expected. Germans, 43.2, 43.4, 52.5, 52.3, no big no big changes expected there. For the Eurozone, 45.8 to 45.7, 51.9 to 51.7 for the services. Again, no big surprises there. And then for the UK, relatively unchanged, or likely to be relatively unchanged. And then for the US, 49.6 to 49.5, you can see that even if there is a little bit of a difference between the actual and the forecasted, it's not huge. It doesn't go from a 49.5, or it doesn't go from a 51 to a 40 at this point, right? So again, services PMI for the US, 55 to 54, not going to be a huge change there. So yes, these PMI numbers could result in a small blip in the price, a small small push to the upside or a small drop to the downside, but I don't think it's going to be a big news or it's not going to be a trend changer. Okay, so if it's been trending to the downside and it blips up a little bit or spikes up a little bit, let it complete its retracement and then look for the continuation back down. So with all that said, a lot of red news here, but if you're paying attention to red news only, don't do that. A lot of red news here, but I don't think it's going to do anything too crazy on price. Then onto tomorrow, remember we have the Jackson Hole Symposium at the start. It's supposed to last for a couple of days, right? So markets are somewhat sitting back a little bit, expecting so it starts on Friday, it goes through to Saturday and Sunday. So yeah, it does go for a couple of days. Markets are sitting back a little bit. They are um, waiting to try and see what Chair Powell Chair Powell from the Fed Reserve could say about policy, um, especially we're towards the end of August right now. It's the 22nd of August. Um, uh, uh, they're looking for hints of his decision or the Fed's decision with the meeting on the 18th of September on the rate cut, the likely rate cut, right? So a little bit you can see that markets are moving, but volatility or liquidity seems to be a little bit thin because they are holding back, waiting to see what could be said at Jackson Hole, at the Jackson Hole Symposium, and it is likely that, or it's anticipated that he's going to be a little bit dovish, right? He's going to be a little bit dovish um, at that symposium. I can't find that headline as there, but it was there. Okay, so with all that said, ooh, look at the euro. Soon was on the euro to the upside. Um, um, who else was that? Ronaldo was on the US CAD on the loonie to the downside. So we were sharing trade ideas there. So that's all working out quite nicely. With all that said, let's look at the charts. Now, dollar index, right? So I revised or rather adjusted my lines a little bit, my Fibonacci levels, dragged it down to the last previous swing level or reversal level. From that big move down that we started on the 15th of August down to the 22nd, I've highlighted that 50% retracement level as at that 102 point. And then from that 102 as it dropped, I've looked at this whole move down. Um, Yesterday's test and reject of 101.60 was coinciding with that 61.8 now. And then this slight high from today somewhat coincides with that 38.2 from that move, that 38.2 retracement level. Okay, so what I've also done now is put in this dotted line at 101.10 because that's what we spoke about yesterday, where we said that the dollar looked for the retracement to complete, which is what it did. It went up, tested, rejected, and pushed down. Right, retracement completed. Continuation of the downside, it did push down below 101.30, which was just here. Right, this previous swing level, 101.30. Below that could trade down to 100.80. It came down to 100.9, almost 100.90. We came very close. Let me just do something. Right, and we said that it could hesitate at 101.10. So it did come down and hesitated at 101.10. A lot of ones and zeros that we're talking about right now. right? So with that, I am still thinking that if it breaks below 101.10, we are likely to see the dollar index push down towards that 100.80 level. Um, Earlier today, so let me have a look at on H4. So that 100.80 was that level that we saw in December, at the end of December last year. Then with that, the next big level down will be at 99.770, right? 99.70 there. And we haven't, the last time, then that was in July last year. Before that was April in 2022. So one thought I had earlier today when I was looking at the dollar index. Ooh, let me just do that. Sorry, 1 second. Okay. One thought I had when we were looking at the dollar index was I I don't see at this point, right? At this point, I don't see the dollar index breaking 100.80 and crashing down to 99.70. I could be entirely wrong, but I don't see that happening right now. It doesn't seem like there's going to be that, any major news, any craziness that's going to cause that big drop. So I do think that 100.80 could be the limit of where we see the dollar index trade down to. Okay. Um, let me do something. I was going to. Okay. So now with that, 22nd. Before that, hey Angel Case, how are you doing? Hey Basanta, good morning. Hey Richard, how are you doing? Okay, now we're looking at this on the dollar index. Okay, so dollar index needs to break 101.10 to trade down to 100.80. Strong support, right? So unless we're gonna see some big, big, big news from the new, okay, actually the word is new, any new news from the Fed Reserve, I don't think we're going to break 100.80. What seems to be happening is that as markets, we've had this percentages, we had this data for a long, long time, relatively long time now, and we're at 100% easing, we're at 65% on a 25 basis point rate cut, we're at 34.5% for a 50 basis point rate cut. It's increasing, right? It's gone from 29 to 34.5. It is increasing, but it does, or it could be at a situation where we're in a priced in scenario, right? Markets have been anticipating that the Fed Reserve could cut rates um, in September for a while now, and that's why we've been seeing the dollar push to the downside. It could very well come down to this point at the support with no other major news. It could be priced in, and we might see it bounce, just very similar to what we've seen. I can scroll back very quickly, back here. All right, so this was December, December 4th, December 14th here, where it pushed down, didn't crash, right? It pushed down on speculation that the Fed Reserve could cut rates early in 24. It pushed back up, and then in late December, I think I was on holiday, and it started pushing to the downside. I think there was some news here on further speculation of a rate cut early in 24. Then when it didn't happen, it bounced back up. So that's something I'm going to, put big alarm bells on and be watching out for. Okay, so pay attention to that level. Needs to break 101.10 to trade down to 100.8 at a very strong support. Richard just said US dollar came down too far, possibly retrace coming. Yes. Maybe a stop hunt coming, then turn around. Yeah, I kind of think so too. I'm not sure about the stop hunt. I don't really think that banks and all that are sitting around going, ha ha, ha, let's see how we can stop Jin out. But I think that just by pure market forces, we could see it come down, test that area, and possibly have a good, strong retrace or somewhat of a correction back up again. We'll see. We'll see. All right, so that's the dollar index for now. That's a short term, oops, that's a short term view. Any questions so far? Do put it into the chat and let me know. Good morning, Noachuku. How are you doing? Okay, now with that, then we'll look at the Kiwi dollar. All right, so Kiwi dollar, again, wait. Anticipating that dollar weakness, then I'll keep that same view. So it came down, it's bounced pretty much as expected, back up. We were looking for it to close above 6170. It tried, it failed, it came back down again to form another little push back up, another retrace for potential push back up. I'll still be looking at 6170, 20 to 45 to the upside. This time again, I think there's a bit of a cup and handle kind of pattern. Not really good at patterns, but I think there's a cup and handle pattern there. You also have that upward trend line with a horizontal resistance at 6160. So a break of that, a close above that, you're looking at 6170, stop loss 20, take profit 45 to the upside. I'll keep that same view, 6170, 20 to 45 for the Kiwi dollar. Okay, then onto the Aussie, same thing. Well, of course it's the same thing because we were right here yesterday. We're right here yesterday at 6741 or 6740. We're same right here today at 6744. It's gone up a little bit, or it's gone down a little bit, it's gone up a little bit, it's gone down a little bit more, and it's back at the same place. Again, if you wanted, or if you really wanted to trade Aussie, 6755 stop loss, 20 pips, take profit, 40 pips to the upside. You could do that. I don't particularly like that. I would say on the same thing I said for yesterday on the Aussie, because that's a bit close, right? So you actually want it at 6760. Then your stop loss will be 20 pips there, your take profit will be 35. So I don't like that. I would still say look for it to break up, look for it to push 6768, 0.68, test that resistance, and we'll see what happens from there. Okay, so look for reaction at 0.68 resistance level. So far, Kiwi, same, Aussie, same. Then onto the Aussie Kiwi. Right, Aussie Kiwi hasn't played out. Hasn't played out. Again, I'll remind you that Aussie Kiwi, if you look at it on the longer term, we're actually looking at that resistance selling down from either 1.13, selling down at 1.13, or selling down at the max at 1.16. In that area, we're looking to sell it down or buy it up from 1.03 or 1.0, right? So between these two levels. When we look at it in the smaller time frame and it sits in the middle, it just becomes a bit choppy. We were looking for it to bounce back up within the range, hasn't happened. We take that away. Now anticipating the Kiwi to push up, the Aussie to push up as well. That's why we're seeing that choppiness. Um, you could be looking to sell it down. You could be, it's just a bit in that 61.8 area. If I took this whole thing, you see also that's why it's testing that point. I'm not too keen on the Aussie Kiwi at this level, right? So we tried looking for a couple of setups back within the range or to break that trend line, and it looks like it's breaking, but it doesn't look very strong, just sitting there. So I wouldn't do anything on the Aussie Kiwi at this point. Okay, fair enough. Yeah, I think it's just in that indecision area. If it breaks down 1.09, yeah, I was just thinking that if it breaks down, you have that 60 pip, but there is a bit of a level there as well. So I wouldn't do anything on the Aussie Kiwi, right? Aussie doesn't have a lot, does have some upside, but not a lot of space to move into. And also at 0.68, this was a headliner that I was reading. Fresh warnings for Australia's economy, or fresh warnings Australia's economy could be on path to a recession. That was 7 hours ago, right? So maybe, and this is talking about hiring freeze as 100,000 Australians are expected to hit unemployment queues. It doesn't sound like it's gonna be very flash in Australia economy right now. So we might be looking at that level and a possible retrace or correction back down, which could coincide with the dollar testing this area, right? Dollar still tracing back up. I would also add that I want to add a bit on the dollar. I want to add a bit on the dollar that it could range between 101 and 101.6 yeah, between that range. 10 no 100.90 or 100.80 and 101. So it could range in this point for time being as well. Okay. Um So yes, with all that said, then we look at the pound dollar. German PMI came out worse than expected. That's why we're seeing the dollar push up most likely. Well, a lot worse than expected. Not a lot worse, but that's why we're seeing the euro push back down because of those two news. But you see the French came in at a 55 on the services PMI. And this always happens when I was just telling you about how PMI doesn't push prices too much, and this I jinxed it. But German is there, French is there. We want to see what happens on the eurozone with their manufacturing and services PMI. Okay, again, I don't think this will be big um, trend changes. Remember, we do have the UK and the US PMIs to be released later as well, so you don't be caught in buying it up and then it comes right back down again. Now, with that said, looking at the pound, that pushed up. I did catch a small move on the pound to the upside. I got stopped out on my yen, which I'll show it to you shortly. I stopped out on yen, got in again, got into the pound to recover that stop out on the yen. Right, so pound did break that resistance, now turned support. Got up to 1.3055 to the upside, did not get to that resistance, but it was way outside. It poked out of the Bollinger and then came retracing back down again. So we take that away. Anyone got onto the pound dollar? Do put it into the chat and let me know. Right, now looking at that, we have that trend line there. Could drag this up. I don't think it's going to make too much of a difference. Don't need that level anymore. 50 is there, that makes sense. That's pushing up. Okay. So now, pound dollar pushed up, sitting in a bit of a consolidation, right? Testing, could come down slightly further, could come down a little bit more to test, which would be that 38.2. I think it could even come down to about 50. So test that trend line and bounce. Main thing is at 4:30 we have the PMI numbers. Going to have a little bit of a blip there. So looking at it to stay above this point, push back up. Dollar is pushing up. That's why we're seeing. So this is what happens when we're looking at movements right now. It's a snapshot of what's happening in the overall scheme of things. Looking for this to push back down and bounce back up. Okay, so pound dollar, I feel that it needs to stay above, well, it needs to stay above that point, right? Let's not get too fancy. It needs to stay above 1.3040 to push back up towards that resistance. I'm still looking at the dollar weakness to continue. If it stays here, I wouldn't do anything, right? If it stays at this point here, I wouldn't do anything, right? Because if it trades up to that resistance, there's not a lot that you can do. You're looking at 1.31, nice round number as well. You get a 30 pip stop, you have a very tight take. So I wouldn't do anything here. And that's a nice round number at 1.31. That's why we're seeing it come back down a little bit. What I would be looking for is if the pound dollar does come back down, test and bounce, then you could be looking to buy it up. So a false break of that trend line, 1.3060, stop loss 30, take profit 75 to the upside. Beyond this resistance, let's see, where can we go? All right, so this level, this resistance was since July last year. Beyond this resistance, let me see. Well, we definitely have a big one up here, but that's very, very far away. Then we have another level right about there. That is resistance. Okay, so coming back to the H1, the current. That's a big, strong resistance from 2023, July. So if it breaks past that point, then you could see it trade up to 1.33. But I would like to see this first. All right, I'd like to see a bit of a retrace, healthy retrace to bounce off that support. So 1.3060, 30 to 75. 1.3060, stop loss 30, take profit 75 to the upside. Then onto the euro, which we're seeing all that flurry of activity right now. That area that we were looking for, expected H4, you see that that was, let me make it look nicer. Right, that was the high that we saw in December last year, where it tested and reversed. So now back to the current. We're seeing it test, or it pushed up. I'll take that away for now. It pushed up and then came back down, so it's testing that area again. Right, so we don't need that. We have 23.6 right there, that makes sense. Our trend line, actually, I don't really need that. Take that away. Okay, so that's what we're looking at. If I wanted to take this long move up, 23.6 will be right there, which is why we're looking at that point. Okay. Okay, so now we're looking at this on the euro. Trend line is dragged up. It's just, if you haven't, I hope you've sensed it already. But it's just that markets, a lot of the currency pairs are at very high points, right? A lot of the currency pairs are at major high levels, nice round numbers as well, and anticipating the dollar possibly sitting in this range with a bit more of a retrace possible. I'm thinking that some correction has to come back in, right? Some correction has to come back in. So I'm thinking that maybe we could see a bit of a stronger retrace back down. Right? So I'm looking at that. That's the picture I'm thinking of. It comes back in, it's tested this point, it comes back in, could come down to this level here, which might be a good point to test and bounce off. This would be a 50 pip move to the downside. Not impossible. I wouldn't sell it down, but what I possibly could be thinking is a test and a bounce back. So a retracement and then a bounce back. Yep. Okay, so I'm thinking of that. Then I will be looking at very similar to the pound dollar, right? We're looking for test and bounce. Euro dollar as well is sitting in there. I will be a bit careful trying to trade it up. I mean, if you're trading it up straight away, 1.1180, stop loss 25 even, take profit 65 to the upside. I would like to see it do that because that would give us a better setup, more, possibly a bit of a longer term setup. 1.11, stop loss 30, take profit back up to here 60, and then if it comes back up to here, you could move it to break even and look for the longer run to the upside. So that's what I'm kind of more interested in on the euro, right? And if it doesn't happen, then we don't have a setup. That's fine. We could look to continue the trend to the upside. So 1.1130 30 to 60 on the euro. Stop loss 30, take a profit 60 on the euro to the up on the retracement and bounce off. Does that make sense? So far, it's sitting in a bit of a consolidate. I could be entirely wrong. It could just break 100.80 and crash all the way down. But I feel like it's a bit exhausted on that move right now. Then onto the euro pound, because of what the euro is doing and the pound not doing too much. So we're seeing the euro pound drop down to that support level, testing 85, 0.85, which is at 61.8 level. Looks like okay, so it looks like it might come down and break. Could be looking at the euro pound to sell down 8490, a bit too near, 8485. Stop loss will be about 25 pips. Take profit, you'll be looking at 25 as a 1-to-1, not great. I think 60 to the downside with a hesitation at 8560. That's what I'll be looking for on the euro pound. Again, I think that this could move in that because it's a 61.8 that we saw in August. So it might come down, trigger, test, and then do that, right? So just watch out for a bit more volatility on that round number level as well. Okay. Then on to the US yen. So this was what happened to me. So annoyed. I signaled this on the, or not signaled, I highlighted this on the Discord channel where I was, selling. And I was so happily I saw the dollar yen test close to that 61.8 level, started pushing back down, got onto this trade to the downside. It was pushing down. It was right after I posted in Discord. I was thinking, I should move this to break even because it was I think it was about 50 something pips in, right? So I thought I should move this to break even. The next moment, it spiked up, right? It spiked up a good um, a good 115 pips. Very important. This is again very important why you must have your stop loss in place, because it's a 115 pip move to the upside. It could very well have continued higher as well. So again, big reminder to everyone, have your stop loss. It did push up. It got stopped out at 30 pips. So I was not very happy with that. It looked like a good move to the downside on the yen. Pushed up, and I'll show it to you on the 15. Sorry, I'm just gonna digress. 5 minutes. And this is what happened. Look at that. Right? Within that 5 minutes, spiked up. And it was because of the BLS labor reports, employment numbers, right? It spiked up and pushed up to that point, and then next moment it comes right back down, right? Came right back down. So I got stopped out. I looked at that, and then I was looking at that hour closing, tested up, and then closed back down. So tested higher, didn't like that, came right back down. I sat there, I saw it pushing down, I got into that trade, and then at 100 pips to the downside, it was also because of that 144.70 level, right? So I just give you a little bit more, which was what we were talking about yesterday. Oh no, think before that yeah, this dotted line there because of that 61.8 level. So traded down straight away, made it back. I'm happy again, right? Then again, this morning, as it was pushing back down, got into that. I was expecting that to cross over the TSRI MACD to cross over. It didn't, and then it started pushing back up, close out the trade because I thought that it could retrace further. Right now, it's pushing back down again. All right, so that's my story on the. That's my digression and my story about what I did on the yen. I was just saying before the session that I've been trading the yen so much this past 2 weeks. Now, 61.8 is holding. We want to keep that at 144.70. That's a key level that we want to watch out for. 147, nice round number. We'll keep that. I don't need any of this at this point. What I'll highlight as well is this move down. And you see that it came right back up to that 38.2 level, right, this morning. That's why when it was pushing down, I thought that it was going to push lower, but it's just sitting right there. So that's what I'm looking at on the dollar yen, looking at that holding prices down as well. So what needs to happen first off is that it needs to break 144.70, which is that 61.8, which is that 61.8 level, right? Needed to break that point, and as we highlighted earlier yesterday, it needs to go past, well, it's got a bit of space, but you're going to see a bigger push below 144. So I'll be looking for on the US yen to break down 144.45, no, 144.40. Stop loss would be 40, 50 pips at the maximum. I don't think, okay, as much as the take profit level is there, I don't think it's going to go down 245 pips. Not anymore. Not quickly. Okay, let's change that. Not quickly. I think that there could be a chance. There could be a chance because it was there just in August with the Nikkei crashing. So it was there, not very far away, but I don't think it's going to happen in a rush. I think what would be reasonable would be looking for that point. So you're looking at 50 to 100 to the downside on the dollar yen. Okay, that took a little bit longer to come around to this point, but yes, 144.40, 50 pip stop loss, 100 pip take profit to the downside. Sell 144.40. Is it 40? Yes. Stop loss 50, take profit 100 to the downside. If that does hit, if that does trigger, that's just going to, I'll be so happy. That will round off a perfect week, perfect fortnight on the yen for me. All right. Now with that said, then on to the euro yen. Have been waiting so long for this. We've been talking about this through this week, testing that trend line 61.8, looking for it to break. Came close, didn't. Came close again yesterday, didn't. Came close again today. Possibly looking for it to trigger this time round because the euro dollar looks like it's got some downside potential. The dollar yen looks like it has some downside potential. So the euro yen could have that downside potential. I'll keep it at 161.35. Stop loss 30, take profit 90 to the downside. Okay, straightforward on that. Reynaldo was talking about his Euro Swiss franc. We can do a quick check of that shortly. A pound yen, same thing. We were again right here yesterday. It's right here today, or right here yesterday. It's right here today. It's right in the middle. I wouldn't do anything on the pound yen. Pound dollar looks like it could push up a little bit undecided, a bit limited there. So I think pound yen is going to be a bit conflicted. It does have that move down. It does have um, that move up. Narrowing in It's narrowing in that approach. So there is a breakout potential on the pound yen. Whether it's going to break upwards or downwards, it could go for a straddle, a bit of a straddle approach, but I wouldn't on the pound yen at this point. It could spike up, hit your stop loss, or could spike, hit your stop loss, and then continue up. So not on the pound yen for me. Okay, then onto the US Swiss franc. This worked out almost. We thought it was going to push up a little bit more before coming back down. It sat right there before pushing right down. So if you caught that, it'd be good 40 pips to the downside. If not, then right now at this point, I'm just revising those levels. Right, resistance level is there, still relevant. Looking for it to break down that point. Dollar still sitting across. Dollar is still sitting across. So that could lead to this pushing or sitting across a little bit, but it looks like it has that downside potential. What you would be looking at on the Squeezy 8490, stop loss 20, take profit 40 to the downside. Okay, I like how it's starting to cross over as well. So 84 0.8490, stop loss 20, take profit 40 to the downside. Okay. Since we looked at the US Swiss franc, since we looked at the euro dollar possibly pushing down, like Ronaldo was talking about the euro Swiss franc, we were talking about this 9480 being that strong resistance level. It stopped me out on break even and direct TP. Yeah, I was highlighting that support level. If it does break, there is a good downside potential. 9450, possibly even 9430, right? But not something that I trade. So that's kind of my view right at this point. It's way back where the euro and the Swiss franc, well, the Swiss franc was pegged to the euro. Just built my habit not to trade the euro Swiss franc. Now, with that, then onto the US CAD. We were also talking about this during the stream earlier. Don't need any of this. That's down to here. That's my support turned resistance. 1.36. So we are looking for the loonie, the US CAD, to break. Well, now that it's broken 1.36, sorry, well, now that it's broken 1.36, it's bounced back up. We have that previous low that is bounced off from at 1.3577. I want it to break down. I think I'll revise this a little bit lower, 1.3570. Stop loss, I'll do a 30 pip on this just because of how it's behaving there. So I'll give it a little bit more space. and then my take profit down to 45. Could go a lot lower than that as well, but I think for now 45 would be reasonable. Put that as a stop. Put that as a stop right in the middle there. Right, so again back to the H1. That's what we're looking at. If it breaks down, you could drag it lower to the next support. Again, I think that with some limitation, possible limitation on the dollar index to the downside, that might be a little bit limited for that move, but we do have that downside, or some downside potential on the loonie. Okay, so 1.3570, 30 to 45. I'll give it a bit more space because I think it could bounce around a little bit there. So not looking to buy anymore, looking to sell 1.3570, stop loss 30, take profit 45 to the downside. Right, so it looks like we're all about that dollar weakness, but we're looking for a bit of a retracement before that dollar weakness here. The yen is just on that big downward trend, so we're looking, despite the dollar strength or weakness, we're still looking at that downside push on the yen. Then onto gold. It feels like it's such a long time ago where it broke that 25, when it reached that 25.30 level, but it was only Tuesday. It was only 2 days ago, right? It came right back down. It's tested this previous swing level. It's don't need that because it's broken. Tested that point there, right? And then we have sorry, just checking my lines. That point here, which I would believe would that 61.8. I double clicked on something and okay. Now with that, and that's that point there. Right, so yesterday we were saying that below 2500 could trade down to retest 2480 support, look for reaction there. It came down to 2494, didn't get to 2480, but 2494 bounced off. Now it's sitting in this point. I think that there is that upside potential, but it could be limited up to 2518. If it breaks 2518, we're going to see 2530 back up again. All right, so on gold, we're likely to see some upside potential to 2518. Beyond that, could trade up to 2530 all-time high. Now, with that said, the dollar is still undecided, still sitting at that 101.20 level, forming a bit of a decision of where it wants to go next. Gold is sitting there. CAD trying to push a bit lower. US Swiss franc also forming a little bit of a downside. Those two are undecided. Yen is pushing up a little bit, still trying to form that downside. Pass and reject maybe. Euro pound finding that support. Euro dollar doesn't look like it wants to try lower, but we'll see, give it some time to develop. Pound dollar looking like it might push up to that resistance. We're going to see what happens there. Aussie yen, Aussie Kiwi not doing too much. Aussie dollar, yeah, I see the upside move, and the Kiwi dollar is forming up. So it looks like out of everything, Kiwi dollar might be one of the earlier ones to be activated, and it would be a good trade. It would still be a good 20 to 40, 20 stop, 45 take to the upside. Okay, so I will keep the stream running for a little bit long, a little bit more. I do have a couple of things to record. But again, if you haven't already, do click that like and subscribe button. It will help massively. And if you're watching this after the stream, please leave a comment. Give me any feedback you have. And please trade well, trade safe. I'll catch you again. Take care now.